Hello and welcome to this presentation of the Goods Vehicle Movement Service from Espace Europe. My name is Geoff Yates, I'm Head of Commercial Development here at Espace. And a quick look at the topics we're going to cover today. So the Goods Vehicle Movement Service, or GVMS, the information you'll need to complete that said GVMS declaration and get a GMR, a Goods Movement Reference, different types of GVMS ports, any issues which we foresee, vehicle inspection at the border, how we can help you, our Espace customs offering, and an EU Haulier case study. So 2021 has all been about the trader, the importer and exporter of record, and 2022 will now be about the haulier. It's important for you to understand you will now be crossing an international frontier. Your truck will be crossing a border. There will be a full reintroduction of GB import controls. There's been an easement of imports this last year. There's been very few trucks being stopped on importation, and that will be changing. There needs to be a good understanding by all parties of what's going on. So there will be information going from the exporter to the importer via the haulier, via a customs agent. It's quite a complicated picture to put together. So it's important that everybody understands what they're going to be doing. Any incorrect paperwork will mean no entry to the port of departure. It's very unlikely you're going to get into the country of arrival without incorrect paperwork. And you really should be starting your preparations now. If you haven't already, now's a really good time to start. Onto the Goods Vehicle Movement Service then. What is it? It's Electronic Information Capture System, and ICS. It's very similar to the French SI Brexit system. It's been required from GB into Northern Ireland from the 1st of January 2021. It's required now from GB EU, EU GB from 2022. We've had a good year to shake down the whole Northern Ireland thing, and the GVMS works very well there. So all of the issues are sort of ironed out. It allows you to group multiple entries into one goods movement reference. So you could have 5 part loads on a truck, for example, and your driver only needs to present one reference at the border. And you will need a GVMS, you will need to make a GVMS entry and get a GMR for each import and export of your truck. And the driver needs a correct GMR to enter the port of departure. The goods movement reference, this is what your driver will get. This is all he needs to present at the port of departure. And behind this barcode will be all the declarations which are required. So before you can generate a GMR, a goods movement reference, you will need a GB EORI number, you will need a GB government gateway login, and you will need to be granted permission to use the GVMS. All of these are available at gov.uk. It's not the easiest system to navigate. We can help you. My details are at the end of this presentation. If you do need some help, please get in touch with me. So what information will you need on the GVMS system? You'll need the direction your vehicle is moving, so EU to GB, GB to EU, for example. The crossing details, so from Dover to Calais or Dunkirk to Dover. If your driver will accompany the vehicle or not. If the vehicle contains goods or not, you will need to get a GMR even for empty vehicles. And different types of declarations behind the GMR. So for EU to GB, you will need a GB import declaration. You may need a transit, and you will need safety and security, but at a later date from the 1st of July 2022. And GB into EU, you will need a GB export declaration. You may well need a transit and safety and security declarations from GB. Quick look at documents continue then. Transit isn't commonly used for GB, but it may well start to be used for inland clearances. So you can run transit from Dover into Lichfield, for example, do the clearances locally at Lichfield and then onwards to delivery. So that may be a model that's more often used in the coming year. Or you use transit if you're entering GB to go into Ireland using GB as a land bridge. The GB ENS, so the Import Safety and Security Declaration, is applicable from the 1st of July 2022. So again, we've got a 6-month grace period there. The GB EXS, the Export Declaration, is included in the standard export declaration. But if you're sending your vehicle out empty, you won't have an export declaration, so you will need a standalone EXS. And the EU ENS has been applicable since the 1st of January 2021. It hasn't been policed very strictly though. And we have heard from the Belgian, the Dutch and the French authorities that they will start doing that. And there could be a fine of up to €3,000 for arriving in those countries without a correct ENS. So when you log on to the GVMS system, this is the first screen on the top left that you see. Where is this crossing going from and to? For this example, we've chosen from Great Britain into a port into EU. Once you've selected that, you get your draft GMR. So this GMRB is the draft GMR number, which you can use on your ferry booking. You can create this up to 28 days in advance of crossing. Once you've got your draft one, you then need to update it. So the first bit's about your crossing. So that would be from Dover to Calais in this example. About your vehicle, so you'll need your truck and trailer number, and if your driver is crossing with the vehicle. And lastly, section 3 is all about the declarations. So you may well need, well, the declarations we've been through on the previous page. Once all of these have been completed, your GMR is set to completed and you'll be allowed to cross. Quick look at EU to GB then. You will need a pre-arrived import declaration in most cases. There are a couple of different models, but we feel mostly there will be pre-arrived import declarations or transit, TIR or ATA car name. The GVMS will arrive the import entry, so it's important for you to check the shipment status. The customs info screens will not be working on ferries westbound. So the information screens that you have when you go out into Europe, you get a green for OK to proceed, you get an amber for checks. They won't be working. So you do need to check the GMR status to see if you're OK to move inland. You may well be called for inspection. Just touching on the GVMS point arriving the import entry, if there are insufficient funds in the duty deferment account of the importer, your truck will be stopped. It won't be physically stopped, but your truck will need to stop until those funds have been deposited. So GB EU types of GVMS ports, there's two different types of ports. So looking at the pre-arrived ports, you'll get an EXA export declaration. So these are for ports where there's not any storage space there. So these are Dover, Eurotunnel, all 7 are mentioned there. And you get permission to proceed before your vehicle arrives to port. So once we've done an export declaration, we'll get a permission to proceed, a P2P, so yes, you can go for export. Or we'll get a Route 1 customs inspection, which is documents, or a Route 2 customs inspection, which is a physical one. Because these ports have got no room for inspections themselves, you'll be sent to an inland border facility, and the GVMS system will give you directions to those inland border facilities and allow you to book an inspection. The other types of ports are pre-declared, and EXD is the export declaration. It's for all other types of GVMS ports, so Felixstowe comes to mind, for example. You get your permission to proceed once your vehicle arrives at the port, or you'll get a Route 1 customs inspection or Route 2 customs inspection. And after the point of no return, so i.e. your truck is on the ferry doors are closed, then the export entries get arrived. Quick note on transit from GB to EU. It's quite a common procedure from GB to EU. You can't quote the transit LRN in the GVMS system before it's been started. So if you're going to create your GMR before the vehicle leaves, we recommend you using the MRN from the export declaration. You then won't have any issues at the border. Some of the issues are you will only start transit from an inland border facility at most times, and the transit time from the inland border facility to the port is very, very short. So you'll need 24-hour back office. So we recommend just trying to use the export MRN, and that takes away the worries of using transit on export for the GVMS system. Dual codes, we were advised about these last week from HMRC. So for the Dover Straits only, it allows you to swap between Dover and Eurotunnel without having to create a new GMR. So these are the only ports which you'll be allowed to use these for. As I say, it is recommended by HMRC, so that there will be an option. There isn't on there yet, but there will be an option to use dual codes and allow you to swap between Dover and Eurotunnel with very little prior warning. What could the problems be? We've foreseen many problems. I could have filled a few screens with these, but could be issues with hauliers registering for GVMS. We tried for a couple last week and there have been some issues, but we got them through eventually. Getting GB import declarations in good time. Again, you need some good communication with the customs broker. You may be having to get multiple information from multiple different sources. So an importer, customs agents, exporters might be quite difficult for you to juggle all of those things. Issues at ports being communicated to and from drivers. The customs status screens, as I've already mentioned, not working on ferries. So again, you need to check the GMR status. If the driver doesn't have his customs documents with him, he doesn't need to have them. But again, if he's called for inspection, he may well need those. So he needs good communication with his back office. And you can get a separate company create a GMR for you. But if the driver leaves without going for a customs inspection, for example, then that company may well face penalties from HMRC. So that there may be fewer and fewer companies willing to do that for you. To check if your vehicle needs an inspection service. Again, it's unlikely that drivers will be applying for a GMR themselves, or they might not have access to GVMS. They can use this service in a web browser, and they should be checking their GMR status 10 minutes before they arrive at the port of departure. They're going to get two different types of notices. So first one is no inspection needed. Even if you don't need an inspection, the driver may need to stop for other types of customs inspections if he's got animal or plant products, for example, or a CITES inspection, or he's carrying transit documents. Or he'll have an inspection needed. So the driver will need to report to the UK Border Force. And again, the website will give you directions to the nearest facility and how to book an inspection. We recommend your driver has really good lines of communication. I hope smartphones are an essential piece of kit really for drivers now. But if your driver's got an incorrect GMR, your vehicle won't be allowed to cross. If he's called for inspection, your vehicle will not be allowed to cross. He probably will need additional documentation. So the driver really needs to be able to speak to your haulage back office. The haulage back office probably needs to be able to speak to the customs broker. The customs broker probably needs to speak to the importer or exporter of record. So again, it's really important to make sure there are good lines of communication open to all parties. So when will the GVMS be ready to use? As I say, it's been live for GB Northern Ireland trade since January 2021. You can log on now and see the system for GB, EU, GB, but you can't complete the declarations currently. Heard from HMRC last week that the EU GB will be ready sometime before January the 1st. Again, no time on there. It will be ready for GB EU on the 1st of January. So that's an early New Year's night, I would say, for all of us. We've applied as Espace to be on the beta testing of the GVMS system. So we hope to be able to see this before it goes live. And as and when we see that, we'll be able to give you some updates on that. Quick look at a done for you service. I said we could be able to help you if you have any issues on here. So we can apply for a GB EORI number. We can apply for a GB government gateway account for you. We can register on the GVMS system. We can train you on the system and how to create a GMR. And we understand the process. We've done this for ourselves. We've done this for various different other parties. We know how it works. It's a good set of eyes for us to have on your border readiness. Again, we're very happy to help you. My contact details and the contact details of our sales team are on the last slide of this presentation. Look at our customs products. We have our own customs office. We have 10 people within that office, and they've all been trained via the UK Customs Academy. We have a £2 million T1 guarantee. We have a £100,000 UK deferment account. Mentioned earlier that somebody's duty deferment account could blow. We could use ours on inbound declarations. Obviously, there's a fee to use that, but that's an option to use. We have authorizations at all UK ports to make import declarations. We have a market-leading price structure, and we have expertise in all matters. So our prices are there on the right. We'd be very interested to speak to you if you have any customs needs within the UK, We'll be very interested in creating partnerships with you on a haulier supplier basis. So again, if you want to speak further about that, then please get in touch with me. We've been working with Noster on a haulage basis since 2009. We realised very early on, since the Brexit vote in 2016, that we need information from the EU, and Noster realised as well that they need Brexit information from GB. So we started to swap information, well, for 5 years now. They identified us very early on as their Brexit partner for EU GB DAP cargo. So this is cargo that's prepaid in Germany. So the export declaration is raised in Germany, the transport is paid in Germany, and the UK importer needs to make an import declaration. So Noster decided that we're a valuable partner to them, and they would make those introductions to the importer of record. We then speak to the importer of record, we do the credit checking, we make sure that the lines of communication are open, then we do the import declarations for them in their name. There's no credit risk to Noster. Noster know who the appointed customs agents are, and they've got clear communication with us. So again, is there any issues at the ports? They know who to speak to, how to speak to them, and we sort it out very quickly. There's no trucks waiting for clearance at the ports. There's no additional expense at Noster. This is a system that works very well. Again, if you have any EU to GB DAP cargo, please get in touch with us. We can make the system work very easily for you. There won't be any cost to you, and the system works very quickly, and the vehicles move through the ports very quickly. And just finishing on the slide then, these are our contact details. This is my information here, Geoff Yates at espaceglobalfreight.com, or you can contact our sales team at sales@espaceglobalfreight.com. So that concludes this presentation. I'm sure there will be more questions. If you do have more questions, please get in touch with me. I'd be more than happy to help you. We're desperate for vehicles not to be stopped at the ports in January, and I'm sure they won't with some preparation. Thank you and all the best.